right, so we've got our truth teller today, Spike Eskin, the afternoon show co-host at WIP with Spike, or sorry, I'm going to get this right. Ike, Spike, and Fritz.
There you go. Ike's name's got to be first.
Yeah.
Contractually.
Why did you do like the rhyming of like Ike, Fritz, and Spike? It kind of, it's like a limerick there. Haiku?
Ike, Fritz, and... Well, my name's not going to be fucking third. I'll tell you that. I'm not moving here to do this job to have my name be third. It's bad enough it's second. It's not going to be third. I'll tell you that.
Attaboy.
You're also, I think, amongst my friends, you're a hero for the Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast. Rights to Ricky, the Ricky. You guys talked to... You and Michael Levin talked to the author of Joel Embiid Sees You, Dotun. You had him on the pod, and I couldn't wait to listen to that because, wow, this is probably the biggest magazine-y profile on a superstar we've seen in a long time. And it's one that is a very cryptic, kind of shadowy figure in Joel Embiid that you guys have been trying to kind of get inside, not just Embiid's circle or understand him, but here you have this 13,000 word profile, which you got, Spike, correct me if I'm wrong, you got this while you're on vacation? Like it dropped while you're in Delaware?
I was sitting on the beach and I saw it. And because I get bored of the beach by I can do the no phone on the beach for the first day. And then by the second day, I'm bored. My wife likes the beach. So I saw it and I was like, oh, cool. I'll read this. The annual, there's always a Joel Embiid profile from somebody that just talks about, it just feels like a PR piece. I thought it was one of those. And then I was 3 screens into it on the beach. And I was like, nah, this is a at home on the laptop kind of stories. Too many words for the phone on the beach. So I had to wait till I got home to read it. I thought it was, be honest with you, the first time I read it, it took 2 readings of mine to appreciate what it was. I think when I started reading it, I had the preconceived, oh, this is just going to be the normal article where Joel Embiid blames everybody else and he's ready to go and blah, blah, blah. And if you want it to be that, you can read it in that way. And a lot of when you talk about the Ricky, the circle of Sixers internet that wants to believe in him, can also perceive the article as this is everybody else's fault, but Joel's. I think, but the second time I read through it, and then after talking to Dotun, I saw it as something different. I think it was a window into him as a person, and I think he made a lot of excuses, but I don't think the article was making the excuses for him. I thought that Dotun did a really good job of letting Joel say what he felt and leaving it up to the person who was reading to sort of determine what they thought of it. So that was the basketball side of it, but I thought the person side of it was, remember Adam Silver said like 5 years ago that NBA stars seemed less happy than they used to be.
The Sloan conference. Yeah.
And I thought about that when I was reading it, and I thought about Kevin Durant a little bit while I was reading it, about how all of these ways that he is, he doesn't seem to trust anybody. He has 8,000 or 10,000 unread texts or all that kind of stuff. And he's always looking for somebody that's out there to screw him. He doesn't go out. He sits at home. He's not very social. I felt a lot of empathy for how him as a person, trying to be this thing that he maybe just isn't capable of doing from a mental or physical standpoint, and him struggling with that. I'm sorry, that was a really long answer to, did you read it on the beach? But that was
Spike, you nailed exactly what I felt when I read it, which was, wow, what an incredibly nuanced, humanizing piece that made me feel a great amount of empathy for Joel Embiid, all he's been through personal life, through his on-court struggles, through his health and all this stuff, and the mismanagement that's happened from the Sixers side, dating back to before any of the current actors are involved. And also, I'd never want to build a franchise around this guy.
Right. Yeah.
Like it's so weird. It's like, oh wow, oh my God, that's awful. Oh wow, Joel, I really had you pegged wrong. Well, never want to employ you myself, like as someone who needs to rely on you. And so, as someone who's covered the Sixers as long as you have and followed this process since before it had a name, did you walk away feeling the same way? And how are Sixers fans supposed to process, no pun intended, the idea that our franchise player is a guy who inherently can't trust anyone around him? And I don't know if you build a winner around someone who can't trust anybody.
Yeah, I think you would have to get to the honest part of everyone who is talking about that. And like deep down, I think we all know this is over. Right. Like whether he plays this year or doesn't play this year or plays 45 games and looks great. Like the idea of them winning a championship around him, if for no other reason than, let's say he gets through the regular season playing 50 games or whatever. We just saw how long the playoffs are. When you watch the whole playoffs, because this year I watched the whole playoffs in a different way because the Sixers weren't in it for the first time in 7 years or whatever. It just takes forever. Like, how is he getting from beginning to end in just the playoffs, even if he didn't play the whole regular season? So I think, like, deep down, we all know it's over. I think reading this kind of made me wish it was over sooner. And not for us, but like, it just seems like it sucks for him. I mean, it doesn't seem like he's enjoying being one of the best players in the world at all. At all. You know, like you go through his like friends on the team or whatever, and you start to read this and wonder, what does it even mean to be a friend of Joel's? And I know there's some people in his inner circle, but outside of that, what does that even mean? So I had the same two things. I felt like I saw some of myself in Joel as a person when I was reading it, but I also thought to myself, if I was in the front office, like if I was Daryl Morey or Elton Brand or something, and I was reading this, I would be like, what the fuck? What are we supposed to do here? Right. And they're sort of stuck. So
you just laugh like Daryl Morey did when proposed with the idea of that this is all over. Like,
yes. Yeah.
Just laugh because that's all you can do. Like, oh my God, we went through all that and I don't even know how to respond to that scenario.
Spike, let me ask you this. How revelatory do you think this piece was to them, to Daryl, to Elton Brand, to Jameer Nelson, to Nick Nurse?
I bet not revelatory at all. Right. Yeah, I bet like they understand all of this. Like he doesn't communicate. Like a lot of the, is Joel playing, is he not playing? I do believe it's because he wants to play and they don't know if he can, but I also believe it's because he doesn't communicate exactly what is going on or what his intentions are. I bet they all know how difficult he is. And I would say that if I was reading it and I was one of them, on one end, I would be real. I'm sorry for my dogs barking. They bark if somebody opens the fucking car door down the street.
Unlike Amin, I love dogs and I'm okay with it.
Like on one end, I would be infuriated by it. I would read stuff like, there was one quote from him where he was talking about the Knicks series last year and how he wished somebody in the front office of the Sixers was like looking out for him and tell him not to play. And if I was somebody in the Sixers front office, I would be like, dude, we've told you 100 different things to do with your body and you haven't listened to any of them. So why is this the one? Or when he was talking about the team meeting that got leaked, and he seems so fixated on who leaked the team meeting and less fixated on the fact that they needed a team meeting because the best player wasn't like living up to his responsibilities. I would be really mad if I was that. On the other hand, I would probably be a little relieved that other people would see what they are dealing with. And like when there is ambiguity about what is going on with Embiid's knee and they're the ones getting blamed for it, like maybe somebody somewhere will be like, well, it doesn't seem like Joel is particularly communicative or decides very easily what he wants to do either. So maybe part of them is happy that other people see what they deal with, and I think part of them is probably frustrated at the fact that he sort of throws them under the bus a bunch of times.
That little snippet where Dotun reports that Joel Embiid has 9,500 missed unread texts and 875 missed calls.
Making my skin crawl just thinking about it again.
Yeah. And the fact that like his closest teammate, Tyrese Maxey, communicates with him over text weekly, which tells me that it's probably not weekly. It's probably like some weeks it's like I get a couple texts every couple days, and then other times it's just I don't hear from him for, a month. Yeah. That plus I wouldn't call it a witch hunt on who, leaked the report in the locker room to a reporter, but it just seems like Joel Embiid might be better if he played tennis or golf, because then he could just be who he is and be awesome and not have to rely on teammates to get to the pinnacle of your sport. But this is basketball.
Yeah.
Right? Where you need your teammates' buy-in, you need your teammates' trust, you need that chemistry in the regular season, maybe Joel Embiid's brilliance can last for a season and get you 60 wins. But in the postseason, I don't think it's a coincidence that this mistrust manifests itself on the floor, either in not playing or just not meeting expectations, where he is going to be right now the only MVP ever to not reach the conference finals. And it's hard to see all that mistrust and non-communication and not read some of that into coming in the postseason for this Sixers team.
Well, ultimately, I think that distrust is a lack of self-confidence. Like, I think that's where this all, not to be like junior, psychiatrist or whatever, but I think a lot of his issues in the postseason, sure, comes from lack of trust of other people, but I don't know if he actually believes in himself all that. Like, I thought Dotun made a really good point. I asked him, I said, let's put the injury stuff aside and let's say Joel is Joel with this sort of mentality. Do you think he could lead a championship team? Put the injuries away. And he said, well, in fairness, it's not like Michael Jordan was the greatest teammate of all time who was close to his teammates. And he said, if he's motivated by haters, so was Michael Jordan. Like, Michael Jordan hated his general manager and owner, and he got
a Defensive Player of the Year award by trying to quiet the doubters. Yes,
and
valid.
Years after he retired and he was inducted to the Hall of Fame, he spent his Hall of Fame speech still mad at haters. He is like imperfect in that way, but I think. I still think he was good enough to figure it out if he had been able to play. I think like the combination of his body failing him and his mind being where it is a really horrible combination, It
is fascinating, the idea that the injuries aside, are there other obstacles? There was a passage in here where Drew Hanlon said, there are so many times where I was like, you're better than you think. Last year, 23-24 was the first year that I thought he had fuck it mode, where he just knew like, man, I'm good enough to impact the game in whatever way I want to. The idea that even as an MVP, he still wasn't fully embracing, because he talks about it several times in the piece about early on coaches and teammates telling him, hey, man, you're really good. And he's like, really? And it's weird. I've thought about this a lot when it comes to the development of goes into the development of a superstar. And oftentimes we see a lot of guys who, for lack of a better phrase, got their dick sucked a little too hard too soon. Right? And as a result, they never could accept like, hey, these are the parts where you're not good enough. Right? And then Embiid is almost at the other end of the spectrum, where apparently he didn't get his dick sucked enough. And so now, even as he's one of the great players, there's an insecurity there of like, wait, am I really? Do I really belong? An imposter syndrome, perhaps. And it's crazy to me that someone could be legit in the MVP running for as many years as he was before he won it and still not fully grasp how great and how dominant he was or is.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. Like that is the one thing. I just feel like I'd rather have the guy be overconfident than underconfident when it comes down to it. If you're going to be the best player and you're the guy who everybody's going to depend on, I would rather in the playoffs have you take on too much than not take on enough. And it always seemed like it always seemed like in those spots in the playoffs he was doing it because he thought he was supposed to, but man, would it be nice if somebody come and rescued him from having to do it, himself. And it's a shame that Maxey came so late in his career, because I don't think Maxey's a perfect player, but he certainly is plenty confident and is more than willing to take big shots, in the playoffs. His confidence, like in himself, does seem to be the complete opposite of what other stars seem overconfident in themselves, where he seems underconfident in himself.
Let's talk about the leak. So we do this segment on the show, Code Breakers. So Spike, you were in on this probably as soon as the story came out. What was your initial thought on who leaked it? This is the November meeting in Miami. There was a team meeting, players only meeting. I think it was called by Kyle Lowry, maybe. ESPN reported it. Tyrese Maxey kind of called out Embiid in this private meeting and said, "You're always late to shit. Like, you need to step up and stop being late and, be professional," right? Someone leaks it to ESPN, and then people need to figure out who leaked it. And this is a fascination and obsession of Joel Embiid himself, who later, like, whoever leaked this is a real piece of shit.
Yep.
Spike. So we learned a couple details in this story from Dotun. Does that change who you thought it was initially and the whole detective work that you guys did?
No, it kind of reaffirms. Everybody knows I've been saying on the podcast since probably a week after the meeting that I think it's Eric Gordon. And I had reason to believe, let's say, I will not say this. Nobody told me specifically that it was Eric Gordon. I never had that piece of information, but there were enough little pieces of things that I did know that people told me, and that from a little bit of internet scouring. And I kept saying it on the podcast, like, well, it's definitely Eric Gordon. And then finally this article comes out, which makes it look like it's probably it narrows it down to like basically what Embiid says in the article is that he's not sure if the guy will be on the team because free agency had just started. Well, like, it wasn't Quentin Grimes.
He wasn't there
yet. They had a couple of option guys, Andre Drummond and Kelly Oubre, but like they had already opted in. So it really left like Eric Gordon. I didn't know him or Yabusele. It wasn't Yabusele. I could tell you for sure it wasn't Yabusele. So, and then Eric Gordon somebody brought it up to him on Twitter and he denied it. I've been in the league 18 years. That ain't me. Blah, 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 blah. But
yeah, dude talking stupid shit. Going on year 18. He's saying dude talking stupid shit. I think by not saying Embiid, but
the tweeter.
A Twitter. Yeah, the Twitter. Whatever. I'm going on year 18. That ain't my rep. Get your facts straight. That was like 8 hours after the story drops, right? So story drops at 9:45. Someone says it's Eric Gordon and he tweets out, Eric Gordon's like, "Hey, year 18, that ain't me." Did you think that was a strong denial? Did your confidence wavered at all?
My confidence, look, again, I'm saying for sure, I don't know. I am also saying that I believe pretty solidly that Eric Gordon was pretty chatty about not liking Embiid and not liking the situation. And then there are some other things that if you put them together, I still think it's Eric Gordon. But I have no real information. I am simply I'm tea leaf reading, but nothing that was said in that article led me to be any less sure that it's Eric Gordon.
This is the excerpt in question. "I know who leaked it," Embiid tells me, this is Dotun speaking, during a late night phone call after the season ends. "You do?" "Yeah, but I'm not going to. The past is the past. The one thing I'll say is it's hard being around people that do those sorts of stuff. That goes back to the trust thing. Once you cross that, you can't expect me to be part of a team meeting again. That's just not going to happen. The way you're talking, it sounds like this person is still around, Dotun says. I don't know. Come on, Joel. You know who's on your team right now? I say, laughing. Free agency just started, he says. I don't know what's going on. So there's a chance this person may not be around next season. No, he says, there's a chance they're still around.
It's
so again,
not quite M asterisk, B asterisk on the 76ers.
Yeah.
Not quite.
But yeah, and when you do, again, when you read the tea leaves, you connect the dots like we like to do on this podcast, Spike, and you say, okay, give me the list of people who were on the roster when this meeting happened. All right, boom. How many of them were going to be prospective free agents? Boom. How many of them were going to be free agents with, at least in Embiid's mind, a chance that they might still be around the following season? It really does narrow it down, and it's like, okay, so it's Yabusele or Gordon. And when you talk about something being leaked, is it the guy who's been out the league for 5 years and isn't from this country? Is he going to have a lot of media people and stuff in his surroundings? Or is it going to be the 18-year vet who's been it all, seen it all, and at some point is just too old for this shit?
Yes, and it is, by the way, came here to be a part of a championship team that he is watching be a total shit show, and sort of unhappy about his surroundings. Like,
well, so let's move this forward then, right?
Yeah.
Let's advance this story. What does it mean now that Daryl Morey signed Eric Gordon to another deal, and Embiid, when he said that quote, didn't know that Eric Gordon was going to be signed? We suppose it's Eric Gordon. So what do you think that leaves the Sixers now with? We see all this distrust with Joel Embiid, and he's saying it on the record to Dotun, like, I can't talk to this guy or be a part of team meetings. They crossed the line. So where does it go?
I don't know. Like the easy answer is to say, well, they got to find a way to get rid of him, right? I mean, they had to resign him. He had a player option. There was like a cap thing where, like, if he just picked up his player option, it would count more against the cap than if he declined and re-signed.
Because minimums count for the cap hit on a minimum salary player, no matter how many years of experience they have. The cap hit is only as a second-year player, which is much lower than what it would be for a 10-plus year vet. So even though Eric Gordon is getting the same money, it's the math works out better. Yeah, it's subsidized by the league. There's actual cash paid by the league for that salary, and also the cap hit is lower. Yeah,
so even though he declined his option, it was always pretty clear that he was going to be back. So part of me is like, we'll just get rid of him, like, pay a second-round pick to have somebody take him, get him out of here. And the other part of me is like, you're not going to go to a team meeting because something got leaked in the NBA. Can we grow up for a second? There wouldn't have been a team meeting if you had shown up on time. I don't know. I think they are also, if I'm Morey, I'm in a state where I'm constantly planning for the future, and anything I can do to keep any sort of asset that I have, to meaning like any pick that I might have to trade for some dumb reason, like to get Eric Gordon off the team, maybe I want to be more precious about it than I would be if I was, if I had 100 picks like the Thunder or the Spurs or something like that. So I don't know. Let's let Joel play first before we start worrying about trading people to make them happy, I guess.
Well, Tom, this goes back to the whole being angry about the meeting thing. Is Tom's original thing was, if Joel Embiid had an agent, this probably would have happened. It's so weird, isn't it? Or at least it would have come out way more favorable to him than the alternative. And at the time, Tom, I was thinking, it's probably the frugality of the superstars. Like, I know what I'm worth. I don't need an agent. And now, again, I go back to, that's certainly in the story about how Joel is very money conscious. But yes, I lean more towards, probably doesn't trust anybody to be his agent. Doesn't trust anybody to have that closeness.
And it's weird because I always got the sense when he was with CAA that he had a good relationship with them. That was the sense that I got in my limited interaction over there. But, I don't know, with Leon Rose not being there anymore eventually, and does he really need somebody to take a percentage of a max contract that he's going to get anyway? But I agree with you. Like, at a certain point, you're not paying the agent to negotiate your salary. You're paying the agent to deal with shit that you don't want to have to deal with. And when you're making hundreds of millions of dollars, it's probably worth it. To like, it's the same reason Joel Embiid probably doesn't change the oil in his own car or fix the toilet when it's broken. He probably pays a lot of people to do a lot of shit for him that he could do himself. So an agent would be, and if he ever wants to get traded or something, he's going to need an agent, especially the guy who doesn't want to have conversations with people. You know, he's definitely going to need an agent. So it is a weird situation. He hasn't had one in 3 years.
He's the only player in the NBA. When I did the study, only player in the NBA that did not have an agent. And really? I was like, it was, you know, when I talked to some people around the league about it, they're like, I mean, does he really need one? He has like an assistant that handles things. And I'm like, man, so much of the Embiid story or the perception, the reputation of him would have been handled by an agent, right? Yeah. That like, there's so much, I think, in his neuroses that could be cured in some way. Not everything, of course, but that he wouldn't have to handle with a lot of the bullshit in the league because his agent would handle all of it.
I'll tell you who does have an agent, Tyrese Maxey.
He sure does.
That guy came out looking like a superstar. Like, he stood up to Embiid. Everyone's like, what a leader. How brave of this young man. I'm like, that's an agent. That's the guy who has an agent.
Spike, what is the thing that you'll remember from this piece more than anything? Because I think it's the $20 bill story. I think that one was...
That's a good one.
You mentioned someone fixing his toilet. I'm like, well, they have to walk past the dining room table with $20 bills apparently to do that.
Here's the excerpt. David Martin, who is the head of sports science and medical with the Sixers for quite a while. David Martin, eager to prove he could be trusted not to abandon the young star, often stayed in Philadelphia with Embiid instead of traveling with the team. One day, he noticed a mess of $20 bills on a table in Embiid's apartment. Martin suggested Embiid put the money away. Traffic through Embiid's apartment was frequent. Nutritionists, trainers, housekeeping staff. No, Embiid said, if anyone took anything, he would know. Martin asks Embiid, are you planting this? Are you trying to see if anyone will steal from you? Embiid didn't say anything. Martin responds, maybe you're checking me out. Maybe you want to know if I would take your money. They both laughed. Embiid told Dotun, I don't necessarily do it to people. I'm just going to leave it. And if something is missing, I'm going to know exactly who took it because that's happened.
Boy, it seems like a crazy way to live, man. I would say the two things, can I give two? The two that I'll take away? The one is the story, and it's a longer part of it, just about his trainer, Kim Kasperi, and how close they were, and how, like, even he almost became too much for her, and how that relationship that was so close and so supportive ended up breaking. And it just, like, how could you even, how could you as a teammate get a close relationship and have it stay in 6 months or a year or 2 years when this person who had been around who was one of his closest confidants for a really long time couldn't even hold on to it. It kind of made me sad. And then the other one was when his brother Arthur died and he like blamed himself for it because he wasn't there. And like, I think, he is just such a wild combination of not taking accountability, but like inside feeling like everything's your fault. It's almost like publicly he doesn't want to be blamed, but internally he thinks it's all his fault. And it's such it will be so much harder for me. I've been hard. It's funny, like on the radio, I'm seen as Embiid defender. On the podcast, I'm seen as like the last 2 years, I've just given up. Like, fuck this guy, I can't take it anymore. It will be harder, I think, to be hard on him, knowing as much as I know about him now, just because I sort of feel bad.
Yeah, man. The brother stuff, it seems like it's not like, it doesn't feel like he's gotten past the guilt.
No.
Right? You never get past the loss, but the guilt, the idea that he is responsible, in his mind, directly responsible for the passing of his brother, it just that is a pretty staggering takeaway. That, I mean, that I think any rational person could see, man. You could have been there, and it might have still happened.
Yes.
You don't control these things, but a steadfast belief that he is responsible. Again, I feel horribly for him, and I also wonder, man, is this someone I can rely on?
Yeah.
It makes me feel like shit. Like you're saying, hey, like I don't know how I could be hard on him. And to me, it's like, oh no, now I fully understand the human side. And I think to myself, oh no, this is a human I can rely on in that role. It's got someone else has to be this, and then he can just be the guy who shows up, does his job, and goes home. But it's so important. You look at all the championship teams, and particularly all the organizations that continue to be in that conversation. There's someone who accepts the mantle of responsibility for caring about a lot of shit that most people don't want to care about, whether it's Steph Curry in Golden State, whether it's Nikola Jokic in Denver, Jason Tatum for all the jokes he gets in Boston. He understands those responsibilities and accepts that mantle. And I look at Embiid, I'm like, does he get it? Or not does he get it? Does he want it?
Right.
Does he want to be bothered by all this as he's dealing with all the other stuff that he's dealing with?
Well, and you wonder, how would he feel different if he felt confident that his body wouldn't fail him on it? Like, would it change just enough? Would he be just enough more confident to think that, like, would he be able to put himself out there a little bit more? And it's like interesting. It doesn't always have to be the very best player on the team, but it also can't be a role player on the team. It's got to be like
Haslam.
Right. Yeah. It's got to be one of the guys. Maybe it isn't the guy, but it's got to be one of the guys. And there's certainly, Paul George is not that, even if he plays well, he's not that. I don't know if Maxey is. Like, I don't think Maxey is good enough for Joel Embiid to just come out and be Joel Embiid and Maxey is the leader. Maybe he grows into it, but he might be just under good enough to actually be that guy on the team. And there is the thing that we've talked about a billion times, but whether he even plays enough in the first place for it to matter, which is, I thought it was like in my first reading, the very end of the piece where they finally get to just briefly where he is physically. And they're like, yeah, he said he's going to take it slow this time. I was like, this time? Oh, shit. What do you, wait a minute. You didn't even play last year. Like take it slow. How many times have you had a 4 to 6 week injury and you're back in 10 weeks? Like if you didn't take it slow before, like, what does that mean for this time?
The Olympics, Spike. That's what's different this year, right? Yeah. He didn't take it slow for the Olympics. He took it quick.
Yeah, that's a good point. I did think it was funny that he was begging somebody in the Sixers front office to say he was too hurt to play during the Knicks series, but he swears that he was fine to play in the Olympics a month later, and that didn't do any further damage. And I don't think maybe it did, maybe it didn't, but those two things don't really mesh to me. That you were so hurt you couldn't play against the Knicks and you wish somebody had told you not to, but a month later you're okay to play in the Olympics.
So Spike, on that note, I remember I was on Sirius XM radio. We had Keith Pompey from the Inquirer on, and this is right when it was like Joel Embiid is ramping up and he might return this season, right? And that was the season, and then they ended up making the playoffs and playing the Knicks and all. And I said, why is he rushing back?
Right. Yeah.
To be on a play-in team, for a team with, it's not like he's the missing piece and now it's a championship caliber roster. Once he's back, it's like, we weren't that sold on the Sixers as a whole. I said, why would he do that? And Keith opined at the time. He said, my opinion is that he's doing it for cover because he really wants to play in the Olympics, but he's worried if he doesn't play for the Sixers, misses this whole play-in thing, and then comes back for the Olympics, Philadelphia will be on his ass about, so now you healthy enough for this and not for that. And so I want to ask you first, what's your opinion on that theory, and then does anything in that piece, in Dotun's piece, either refute or confirm that belief?
I think it might be, I'm just guessing, it might be something that went through his mind. I don't know that it is as cut and dry as I got to play here because I want to play in the Olympics. It was a weird year too, because on one hand, that year felt like an in-between year. It was the year they traded Harden. It was the year before the cap space Paul George year. And they were actually better than you thought they were going to be, even though they were a play-in team. I think when Embiid played that year, they were like 30-8 or something. Like they were really good when Joel played. And you looked at the path ahead of you. We debated whether he should play too. And like you go back and forth with, we need him healthy for next year. But then you're like, well, how many years are we even going to have him playing? So how can you not take a shot where you could look at the Eastern Conference and say, well, we'll have the best player on the court against every team in the Eastern Conference. So how do we not take a shot here?
Right, the Kawhi Leonard theory is like, if you have a shot and he's injured, but if he just plays one postseason, we could win the whole thing.
Right. And all it takes is one postseason to change everything. So I don't know. I'm sure he thought about it. I think he really wanted to play in the Olympics because he at least has something on his resume at this point that he won something. I talked myself into the Olympics because I thought one of the things he didn't have was enough relationships around the league with other stars, and then maybe it would be good for him to be around those guys, the best in the league. But
then Tyrese Halliburton took some $20 bills off of his hotel end table.
Now I'll never do the Olympics again.
Yeah, for sure. So I don't know. I suppose he thought about it. I don't know if it's a cut and dry, I'm going to play so I can play in the Olympics, though. I don't know.
It's amazing how much injuries really dictate this league. Just like the player health question about Embiid has driven so much of this insecurity and just the mistrust and the stories about him saying something is wrong with my foot and no one apparently trusting him and thinking he's lazy. And then they go in and they find out, oh yeah, he's got something fucked up in his foot. And then Sam Hinkie decides, hey, we're going to send you to Qatar and just get away from everything. And it seemed like that kind of turned everything around for Embiid. But it comes back to this sensitivity and mistrust where I've talked about this quite a bit with his injury reports, is they're so cryptic a lot of the time. Is that like, what is wrong with his knee? And we've had Brian Suterer, the sports doc on YouTube, come on. He's like, I don't know why, but Embiid has the strangest press releases around his injuries of all the NBA players. It just seems like they're not willing to share information. And now it seems like, and what I heard before was this is because they have to like be careful around Embiid. Like Embiid will be pissed off if there's anything in that press release that suggests that his knee is fucked, you know? And now after reading this story, it does feel, I feel like there's a lot of understanding about why he's so sensitive to injury information.
Yeah, I think like over the years, we had heard enough about that like it's Joel. Like Joel doesn't want this information out there. And you end up like looking like some sort of front office toady defender all the time because you're like, it's Joel. Joel doesn't want anybody to know. Like, that's why. And I think for a while I was saying on the podcast, like, the problem with Joel's knee is like, it's basically a degenerative, like arthritic sort of situation. And sometimes your body adjusts and sometimes it doesn't. And like, there are some players where they play on it and they get better. And there's some players that they play on it and they don't get better. And there's no surgery. It's said it over and over and over again that there's not a like one. I think that there is a chance they told him to go ahead and have the surgery because it might mentally allow him to go compete and try it in a way that he was not sure of last year. Like, I don't know if he trusted them enough last year to do what they were trying to tell him to do. And maybe he goes and he gets it, gets a scope and, which if it was as simple as a simple arthroscopic surgery, he probably just would have had it a year ago or they would have told him to have it. So, it does. a lot, after you read this, it does make the last 10 years or whatever make a lot more sense.
All right, we got to let you go here, Spike. Rights to Ricky podcast. Go subscribe and go listen to that because, look, man, the Dotun interview is great.
Oh, thank you, man.
Two questions. Number one.
Yeah.
Have you guys ever had Ricky Sanchez on the podcast?
No. So we've had Joel and never had Ricky Sanchez. We worked for 2 years and got Joel on. Never. So the Ricky Sanchez thing is, we said, if you see Ricky Sanchez on the podcast, you'll know that's the last one. So I think we could make it happen, but like, we have not had him on. No.
I just want to believe you have already taped it and you're just holding it in your back pocket for that day.
You never know. You never know.
You had a second question, Embiid.
Yeah. The second question is, obviously, the podcast has been on for a very long time, right?
12 years.
12 years? Yeah, 12 years, right. In that time, a very popular television program has aired called Rick and Morty.
Yeah.
And the Rick character's name is Rick Sanchez.
Yes.
Which I've never seen an explanation why his name is Rick Sanchez. But is it possible somewhere, like Justin Roiland or Dan Harmon, one of the two, are just massive Sixer fans or massive Rights to Ricky fans, and that's why it's like an homage to you guys?
God, that would be an honor. I have no idea. I think I saw Rick and Morty years ago. I've never like watched it. I'm aware of that, but I don't know what came first. I don't know if we came first or they came first.
I think you guys came first. I'm pretty sure that show started in like 2015 or 2016.
We're putting it out to the universe.
I would love to know if that's true. That would warm my heart. That would be awesome. I don't know that that's true, but I suppose it's possible.
We're gonna have you on to talk about the Brian Colangelo story because we didn't even touch
December,
that. Yeah,
December 2013.
Yeah, that's spooky. That is very close.
Yeah, it is. We started in July of 2013.
Okay,
there you go.
So, yeah,
wow. Enough lead time right there.
And the Colangelo thing, by the way, the other thing that was funny from the interview, Mike asked Dotun, I think it was the last question he asked him, was there any Brian Colangelo stuff you had to take out that Joel said? And, excuse me, like every answer that Dotun gave up until that point, he thought about for a second, and he said, was there any Brian Colangelo stuff you had to take out from Joel? He's like, oh yeah, a ton. Like he didn't even wait a second. So we want like the uncut Criterion Collection version of that interview where we get all the Joel Brian Colangelo stuff too. So
let's probably tweet it out somewhere. We just have to find it.
Yeah. Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Spike.
Ike, Spike, and Fritz. You can catch them on the afternoon show over at WIP and also Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast. Thanks so much, Spike.
Thanks, guys.